12 years ago, I decided and made a decision to move across the world and live in London with my two kids and my husband for my husband's job in support of his promotion. And I quit my job as a corporate attorney. Now, by industry standards, that made me a trailing spouse. And I used to hate that phrase. I don't know what it was about the phrase. It kind of reminded me of like roadkill being drugged behind a car or something, like I'm just trailing along. And in fact, I am from the South, in case you can't hear that. And my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, just about every woman in my family had the same narrative and the same question. They would say, "Now, Juanita, you have this good job making good money. Okay? Are you sure that you want to quit your career and the trajectory that you are on? Are you sure?" And I would say, "Yes, I'm sure. I've thought about everything. I'm absolutely sure I got this." And in fact, in the newness of everything, because change is not always scary, sometimes it's exciting. And I was thinking about, okay, I've got to buy a new car, I've got to sell this house, I've got to get my kids in two different schools. And I was caught up in the logistics and the newness of it all. And so I can still recall the day that we arrived, and like on day 3, I could still hear the gravel underneath the tires of my husband's car as he was pulling out of the driveway to go to work. And it hit me, oh my God, he's going to work and I'm not. I don't have a career anymore. What am I going to do? And I had my 15-month-old son on one hip, my 3-year-old by the hand, and they looked up at me and I looked down at them like, now what? And I'm like, I don't know. So I decided, okay, I'm all in this. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to take them to daycare, take them to the park. So I get in the car, driving on the other side of the road because we're in London, and I come upon a roundabout. Now, this is not your American-friendly roundabout, okay? This is a formal British roundabout. It had 5 lanes in the circle. I get into the roundabout. I go around the first time, I miss the exit. Second time, third time. By this time, people are honking their horns or saying some not so pleasant things to me, understandably so. Around the 7th time that I'm going around this roundabout, I couldn't get out. The kids start crying. I started crying too. It was a sad scene. It was a sad day, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't have a job. I don't have a career, and I can't drive. This is something else. And so I decided, okay, I will just take them in on the train. And in London, the train is called the Tube. So this is the Tube system. And at the bottom of the tube, it says, "Mind the gap." And that's on the bottom of every train station that you get on, because there's a gap between getting on that train. And in fact, when the door is open, you'll hear an announcer and it'll say, "Mind the gap, please." That's my attempt at a British accent with a Southern drawl. And I would get on this train every day and step over this gap. And I would drop my kids off at daycare. And for the first 4 months, I would come back home and sit in the same spot on my couch and cry every day. Because as I stepped over these gaps kept coming up for me. A gap in my identity, a gap in my career. What does this mean for me? Because all this time I had been Juanita the attorney. Attorneys don't tote well. We don't. We don't go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It was a gap in connection with family. When they were awake, I was asleep, and vice versa. And so eventually I had to navigate these gaps. And today I want to leave you with 3 tips for living abroad and embracing change, navigating change. So the 3 things that the gap represented for me in navigating through this was grace, ask, and pause. So what do I mean by grace? Grace, giving yourself grace to know that you're navigating something that's new. It is okay for you not to be okay every day and all of the time. You have to silence the internal critic in your own head and embrace and approach yourself with some self-compassion. But the grace runs both ways. I had a friend who was also living abroad. She was a former TV producer, and she had quit her job as a TV producer and taking care of her 4-year-old daughter. She quit it for her husband's job, which took them abroad, and she was supporting his promotion. And one day he came home and he said to her, "You know, these mood swings that you're having, I just don't get it. Your life is so easy. You get to stay home with your daughter all day long. How hard could that be? I wish I could stay home and just hang out all day with her. I don't get to see her all day, and you do. What is the problem?" if I could just say to the leading spouses out there, don't do that, okay? That did not go over well. And I had to remind her to gently and lovingly remind him that sometimes the extra grace that we need, whether we are a trailing spouse or whether you have decided to put some aspiration on hold because you need to take care of a sick parent or you need to take care of a child with a particular need. Whatever the change is not just change, but it's change married with sacrifice, married with a little bit of being abroad and being separated from other people can make for a myriad of different issues that come about. And as trailing spouses, we agreed to starve. And what I mean by that is I agreed, it's not my spouse's fault, nobody's fault, to starve Juanita, the attorney. That side of me is starving. The producer side of her, she agreed to starve. However, when he walks through the door, it's daddy, daddy, daddy. So even though you're not 100% with that child all day, fatherhood side of you is not starving. With starvation comes hunger pains. And there are some days that even though it is your job to feed your full dimensional self, it's no one else's responsibility but your own. With starvation comes hunger pains, and some of those cravings can only be satisfied by what your life used to be. And you have to give yourself grace to mourn what you thought you were going to do, the trajectory that you were on, and release it so that you can embrace what is ahead. You can mourn the past and still be excited about the future. And the other thing that you can do is ask. Ask for help. The best thing that I did to get up off that couch after I had cried for every day for the last 4 months was to invest in myself and invest in a life coach and a therapist. I believe that we all need therapy. I think we need to normalize therapy. In fact, I know that some of you will think I don't need a therapist. Most of us who are in therapy are in it to deal with the people who need it and won't go. That's a different talk for another day. But in getting the therapy and the ask that you need, my life coach was amazing. And she challenged me in 2 ways. First, she had me research all of the attorneys that were doing alternative things, from record label executives to actors, presidents, first ladies, some civil rights activists, people who were taking their legal career and doing alternative things who were thriving. That helped me to know I was in good company. Second thing she had me to do was to study wolf packs. When wolves travel together on a journey, the wolves that do the hunting are out front, those that have a job. Okay, they go off and they go and be providers. The younger wolves, the children, the elderly, they're in the middle. But the most powerful wolves, the strategic ones, the wise ones, are hanging out, they're trailing in the back. You may never even see them. They may be up on the mountain and the pack is out front. But they're making sure that everybody has what they need. They're making sure that no one is neglected. They are leading from a trailing position. She helped me to reshape the narrative that I had attached to trailing and that I attached to my leadership as a trailing spouse. They are the pulse of the pack. The other thing that she did was to tell me to pause. It is okay for you to take a minute and take a breath. While you are paused, plan. Come up with a plan of what success looks like for you in this stage. I wish someone had told me that before I moved. I did this after the fact. But even if it's just for a moment, ask yourself, what does success look like now? Okay, the husband's gone off to work, the kids are at school, you are sitting alone. What does it mean for you to be successful? And in planning, it is okay for you to plant. And what I mean by plant is getting roots. Everybody needs to feel rooted, even if you're in a foreign land, even if you're in something that's new. So she challenged me. I used to volunteer for a nonprofit in the U.S. I decided to start volunteering. They had global offices. I volunteered in London. It was a planting. It was a rooting. It was familiar. It got me up off the couch. I used to compete in pageants. So everybody knows about different tiers. There's teen, there's Miss, M-I-S-S, and then there's Mrs. for married ladies with the R. I always tell people the R is for respect, okay? Let's put some respect in my name. I used to be in the Mrs. division for married women, and this gave me the opportunity to compete internationally. And so I did that, and it got me up off the couch because I had to go work out. In life, and this is the last slide, this is what it looks like to come out of the dark, to go from trailing to triumph to trailblazing. Last year, I had the opportunity to compete in Mrs. Universe and became the first Black woman to win the title of Mrs. Universe. Thank you. I found my passion. I get to create content and stories that are groundbreaking. I wish all of you success and luck as you navigate through your world. Change is inevitable, but don't forget to mind the gap. Thank you.